Welcome to the Superhero Sanctum, an offshoot of the PCVG in which Tetris and Waha try to pitch each other superheroes.
Each episode will be at least 10 minutes long, but each superpower may last several episodes, so stay tuned and enjoy the Superhero Sanctum. Density Man!
But what's his real name?
I don't know, man, but he's super dense. Like up in the head basket. Oh, that could be an easy joke for him. But welcome back to another super-powered Super Sanctum. Ha ha ha.
Aww.
We're talking about Density Man. And Density Man is really easy to get. He can change the density in his body to be either less dense than air, so he can fly around, but he becomes bigger and he becomes kind of weaker because he's less dense, so he's easier to break up. Or he can become more dense, and be stronger because he can hit you harder, but he's smaller.
Alright, so when he gets more dense, does he get smaller?
Yeah, that's what I said.
For sure, no matter what.
Well, and his structure changes and stuff. He gets darker, and I don't know. He would get lighter skin color because he's getting less dense.
Okay, so then I guess he would get tougher, but he would definitely get smaller. So
one, he can be more and less dense in different places.
Yeah, that would help. But he can't be more or less dense in different sizes. He can't be same size but more dense.
He could probably be hollow on the inside and less dense that way, more dense. No. So no. There's
cave in.
But what he could do is he'd be flying up and then he sees crime, so he turns into a Kirby ball and he smashes down on top of the villain, breaking their vertebrae and making a huge, expensive dent in the ground. Going, here's your curse, man. And then, becoming really big and less dense and flying off.
That just sounds like a fucking random act of violence. Just randomly puncture someone and then float.
I never said he was a good person.
I'm just imagining the floating off being slowly, and he's going off in a direction, but he's going back and forth slowly. So he's just away from the crime, and no one's stopping him. They're just looking. It's what the fuck just happened? A guy just crashed into him. If people weren't used to crazy superhero shit happening around them, but.
Well, even if you are, there's nothing to prepare you for somebody who you can barely see as an outline in the sky suddenly becoming super small and dense and crashing into the ground in front of you, robbing the dead bodies and shit that's around him, and then flying off into the sky, becoming less dense and visible again.
I think that's the big thing. Just flying off randomly, I just have to imagine it is slow and hilarious.
I guess the stuff that he has on him becomes less dense too, because it's a part of him for the time being. I don't know.
He just has to steal less dense things, or small things, cash money.
I guess cash money would, because they wouldn't wait. I don't know. It'd be cool if eventually he could, less dense and more dense things around him, so he would have a car that would become really tiny and dense because it was super strong and just plow through other vehicles. And then it can become less dense and he can kind of fly through the air with it.
Oh man, if he could just fucking do that, it'd be hilarious. He just takes a weapon that benefits from being more and more. He wouldn't have super strength, so he couldn't lift 1,000,000 maces.
No. He's absolutely a regular strength and everything else individual outside of this.
Mm.
But definitely, if you picked up like a sword, I think the sword could become more and less dense, and you could take off with it. And yes, I think that's going to apply for a gun. Though if he shoots a gun in a less dense state, it would probably blow up. Which would be
Hmm. Probably. Man, we'd have to check that out just because. I don't know. Some of the physics on that just seems a little weird. But then again,
well,
he's making things randomly and more or less dense.
yeah,
Now,
exactly.
here's a question. Say he has food and he makes it less dense. There's more of it. Is it just less appetizing to people?
It's less
I mean,
filling.
not
It's like
appetizing.
it's less filling. It's like if you eat cotton candy, it basically melts back down into the sugar, and it's like you haven't
He could make money making like random cotton candy out of everything. You'd have cotton
pretty
candy
much
pizza, wouldn't you? I know I would.
cotton candy.
Cotton candy whole hamburgers.
All right, well
All right,
that's
now
pretty ridiculous.
a little bit. Maybe we should think of a
So,
more legitimate use of his power. Now, how could he rob a bank or stop a bank robbery?
oh,
I
why?
guess, like you said, the density into that. I don't know. It seems really killy for a hero.
It would just be like, I think he is a villain, and I think it would be he would walk in, or he would fly to the place, walk in, become super dense, and basically rob them, and with a gun that he would not affect or whatever. And anyone who shot him, the bullets wouldn't do anything to him because he's more dense than that. Let's say I like this very, very broad term of dense that I'm using here, and he would just walk away with sacks of money, and then he would, become less dense, and the sacks of money would become less dense. He could steal like gold bricks and stuff. They would just float
I
away.
think depending on how dense and small he could get, he just fucking goes super, super tiny and sneaks out with it.
Yeah, he
Like,
could
seriously.
sneak in that way too. I guess I would say, yeah, why not? I wouldn't. How would he just sneak in from really small that like people wouldn't see him sneak in
Into people's, like,
onto their
pockets
houses?
or. Yeah,
Oh yeah, he
exactly.
just
He sees
sneaks
the
into
people
their
working there.
pocket. Now I wouldn't feel that a tiny person trying to sneak into my
Oh,
pocket.
God. Especially since he's, like, if he's just getting more dense, he's still,
Yeah,
like,
he's
a
gonna be like
fucking
really
probably
heavy.
200-pound guy.
Yeah, exactly.
My leg is just so heavy right now. I don't even know.
Right. I'd have to say
Hmm.
if that's the case, he would move slower too. Not like
uh,
noticeably, but like slightly.
well, while he's like super small, yeah, well, he's moving slower just cause by the nature of
Yeah,
being
by
small.
nature of being small.
I mean, the density probably wouldn't help him, but we just have to assume he can move himself when he's super small by the nature of it'd be a stupid power if he couldn't. If he just got
Yeah.
super dense and started like convulsing, it's like, oh god, I'm too dense.
Yeah, and he can become undent. I also like the fact that he can make other things dense and undense, because that means that like if he teamed up with supervillains, he could make them all super dense and rob a bank, or he could send off a bunch of super dense people to rob a bank, and like to become normal again, they'd have to come to him with the money.
Yeah, it'd be a good way to have a villain with followers that, have to listen to him by the nature of he makes them better or he's blackmailing them by not returning them to their original size.
And he could even go as far as to obliterate them by making them super undense to where their atoms just scatter.
Ooh. Yeah, that would suck. Or just so dense that they can't ever be seen again. And sure, they Yeah, just like so dense they'd never be seen or can't do anything.
It's like, haha, look at that really tiny ant.
Just go on a boat and like say, "You disappointed me, son. I gotta have to put you down."
Oh,
Put you
that would,
down
he
at the
could
bottom
drown
of the
people that
ocean.
way. Yeah, make
Exactly.
them
Well,
super.
here's the thing: if they're like so, I guess if they were so dense, then they couldn't like drown because the water would go in them. They wouldn't even be able to breathe. So
Yeah, there's a
if
leeway to how dense you'd want to make them.
yeah, exactly. So fuck them either way, though. Jesus, it's like
Well, he
free
would
cement
suffocate,
shoes, but you're the cement
anyways.
shoes. Yeah. So I think we got a good, solid villain. We started out with a neutral sort of power and figured out how someone would use it for good or evil.
And
And
it was
good would have been
evil.
a little exact. uh, we're probably going to be able to think of a lot of powers for evil. It's much, much easier to do evil than good.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why. That's why it doesn't matter. We have superpowered good people. It's just you have to be naive enough to do good.
Or,
You
I
heard
don't know.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, thank you, George. Oh, no, Dick Cheney. That's who it was.
Yep. Um, no, there's better motivations for being good, but I'd have to say, yeah, probably better off keeping in mind some good characters, because most of the time, if we just start with powers, it's like, oh man, you could kill so many people with this shit.
Oh yeah, well, that is definitely the true measure of it. But I couldn't think of a way for Density Man to be good other than to float in and then like become dense and smash into like it by the very
He'd
nature.
have to subvert large groups too, like
Yeah,
be small, see things, get out, get in,
yeah,
and like when it comes to the fight, he's tricky, and expands and contracts quickly,
yeah. He'd
like
have to be
some
more
kind
like
of
a fantastic Mr. Fantastic. I expand my right arm out, put my fist into super dense punch, which you could
yeah.
still do.
Oh yeah, but on the evil side, because it was better off this way.
Oh yeah,
It was
we
better
need
off
more
this way.
villains.
Density man.
You don't
You're
understand
better
Density
off
Man.
being evil.
It's just I'd rather write from a superhero's perspective and just have a bunch of superheroes than just a million villains that I'd have to write for, man.
Yeah. Well, I, I don't know. If you ever look at it, who outnumbers who? Because most heroes have several villains.
That's the villains
Yeah,
always outnumber.
like quite a fucking lot.
Them. So we're doing good. And this one's got a really good not only follower issue, but like it's obviously his handiwork. It's like a red herring right there. Like, oh, there were super dense men in here, you say? There were bulletproof. That could only be Density Man. What a dick.
Yeah. But yeah, so we got him in the bag, and we'll have another few. I'm hoping the energy throwing dudes that I was thinking of, which I don't know, might seem a bit much for Density Man. Yeah, maybe not. We'll see.
No, we will see. Or hear, because, the nature of what we're doing is
Yeah,
not visual.
which, trust us, you're better off this way.
That sounds badass. But if we were drawing it, it would look like a 4-year-old. And not even a good 4-year-old who can color inside the lines.
Like terrible 4-year-olds that color outside the lines because they don't give a fuck. And
Right?
not the like, badass type of not give a fuck. More like the, ugh, I just don't give a fuck.
And then they stop halfway through the project. Anyway, see you next week.
Life.